All right. Okay, we're
It's not a reason why.
yeah. Oh, you said this meeting, we're going to come to order again. We will continue with the committee of the whole meeting, and the next thing on our agenda is 11.3.4, notice of intention to designate 37 and 39 Center Street. And Councillor Silvitz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regards to 11.3.4, what is in front of us, I will move those recommendations to Committee of the Whole. I completely agree with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any councillor want to speak to it? Okay, we have Councillor DePola. Councillor DePola, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am going to support the motion on the floor, and I do want to make the distinction why I had felt that the previous delegation on the previous recommendation to give a notice of intent to designate was the appeal by a property owner who had demonstrated her efforts to preserve another property in Richmond Hill. And, it was on that basis that I said, I'm not concerned about precedent. I don't think this fits the same criteria, except for it is the same in the case of a long-term residence. And I don't think simply a long-term resident can be enough of an argument against the intention to designate. I think more likely than not, most homeowners that receive notice are against their homes being designated, and that in itself doesn't constitute a reason to not pursue designation. Also, because of that one distinction before, I thought there's no point in going forward. But I think in this case there'll be more value if the homeowner objects. Then we will come back with a fulsome discussion, and I think this house may have to be considered on the merits, if anything. And you may need that deeper dive to make a decision, and I'm content to support the motion and have this go forward in this case.
Thank you. Councillor Free.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, to all the audience here as well. Based on the content, actually, this delegation come here today had a chat with us. Actually, I had a separate channel as well, connect with this resident regarding to her concern. She's living from here around 2018. It's been, sorry, I think it's 19, whatever the numbers, around 40, 50 years here as well. And as her stage, right? So this house has changed a little bit. I would recommend it, receive the information to have another debating as well. So similar, I would like to put similar motions in front. I see the Central Street East conditions too.
So you're asking for a motion to bring this forward for information only?
That's right.
Which if I understand, am I wrong?
Okay, so to Madam Chair, it'd be my advice that that's not in order at this time, because you have a motion on the floor, and that would propose to do the opposite. So,
right. So we vote on this one first.
Yes, you'd have to deal with this one first. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are those your remarks?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else have any remarks?
Record the vote, please, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. We have a motion before us.
Thank you. Through the chair, voting on the motion moved by Councillor Silvitz to adopt the HRH recommendations. Councillor Silvitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Tree.
No.
Thank you. Mayor West.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Shiu. Thank you. Councillor Liu. Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
No.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Chan. Thank you. Councillor Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion does carry.
Thank you. Our next motion, our next item is 11.39. This was pulled because the mayor acknowledged a pecuniary interest. Is there any further discussion needed? Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd just like to advise that the mayor's brother was actually my daughter's coach in ringette when they were growing up. And, he asked me to talk as long as I possibly could so that we could keep him out of chambers. But I really don't have much more to add. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Will you move this? Oh, Councillor Silvitz will move this motion. No other discussion that I see? No? Oh, call for a vote. No, just a call for a vote. Do I just say all those in favor or do you say that?
May I request
Oh.
a recorded vote, please?
Thank you. Voting on the motion moved by Councillor Silovitz. Councillor Silovitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Tree.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Chan. Thank you. Mayor West has declared a pecuniary interest. Councillor Shiu.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Liu. Thank you. That motion does carry unanimously.
Thank you. And we can invite the mayor back in. We're moving now to item 11.6.
Yes.
The feasibility of meeting provincial housing targets in Richmond Hill, the presentation that we saw earlier. Who would like to, are there any further remarks about this item? Given that we had a fairly fulsome discussion, this is 11.6. You have okay, Mayor West.
Okay, so Councillor DePaulo probably should be moving this, given that it was his motion that brought this about. So Councillor DePaulo, why don't you move it and I'll speak to it.
Thanks very much, Mayor West. And thank you, Madam Chair. So I have suggested a slightly different wording from what was circulated. It just doesn't impact anything, but I had put a time restriction on it. We're okay. Well, I think I said everything in following the presentation that was given today. I didn't realize we're actually, is there a staff recommendation that follows along with this? Yeah, so I thought that was covered with the receipt of, so we've got receipt of the presentation now. I'll happily move receipt of the report. There was one thing I did forget to mention when we were talking about it earlier, and this would have been a good time, but I don't recall. So I will move receipt of the report. Thank you. And thanks for deferring, Mayor West.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, over to the mayor.
Okay, thank you. So I would actually like to make and this could be a friendly amendment with Councillor DePaulo's permission, but the only thing I would like to see is that this report be sent to the Minister of Housing, because I think it's actually a very eloquent and detailed follow-up to the letter that I sent. So if that could be added as a friendly amendment, then we don't have to go through the process. Would that work?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. In fact, that was the reason I originally requested this report, is to have our facts in line for advocacy on the issue. So they should see the report as well.
So the thing, I just wanted to just make a couple of comments. First of all, I mean, my life is such that I actually do have favorite staff reports. And I don't want to give any disrespect to the other, commissioners, because their staff reports are great too. But today, this is my favorite. So thank you very much for that. I even read it twice. It was really detailed and really great analysis. I think it was very well presented and very well written. So I do really want to give a shout out more than even usual to the staff that put this together. Thanks to Regional Local Councillor DePaulo for bringing forward the motion that produced this staff report. I just wanted to be clear on a couple of things that I didn't say initially that, I think it's outlined in the staff report very clearly, but just to summarize, there's been a number of things that the municipality has done in response to what I think we all agree is a housing crisis, and particularly a problem with affordability. It's said in the staff report that, we've been asked to take our target and shorten the timeline to meet the target by half. So we're accelerating what we've done, and we're okay with that. We've streamlined the process on a number of different things, and with the culmination of the pre-approval or the pre-submission process that we've come up with, and we've done that, and that's great. And we've had some help from the provincial government with some funding in order to do that. We've had audits of our development process, and I thank staff for doing that. It had to be done, and that's great. We've designated areas for growth, and we've made sure that in Richmond Hill we can meet those growth targets by putting out a new official plan, and staff's been working very hard on that. We've done that. That's no problem. And we've also, as a council, signed a pledge that we will do everything in our power to meet the housing targets that we need to meet and contribute to what the province sees as a overall provincial housing target, and we've done that. What we haven't been able to do is things beyond our power. And this staff report really lays it out as to, we've done everything that we need to do, and we're going to continue to improve. We don't ever stand still, but we don't have the power to build houses. We do not pour foundations. We do not build houses, and no municipalities really do. So the Building Faster Fund is really problematic in my mind, because it is essentially penalizing municipalities that don't meet their targets by giving money to other municipalities, but not to everybody that does what they need to do. We've done what we need to do. We're being measured on something that we cannot do. And I find that very problematic. And that's one of the reasons that I want this staff report to go to the ministry, so that they can understand it from a, non-political perspective, just from a professional planning staff perspective, what the flaw is in that argument. Now, in fairness to the provincial government, the money that's left over after all of this is done apparently will be offered to municipalities, but it'll also be offered to municipalities that have also already made their targets. So, I mean, that's a good thing, but it isn't the way it should have been done. And the way I think we really need to see this go down is the provincial government and the federal government, for that matter, need to be offering incentives that we can use to have some control over the building part of the equation. And that's not happening with this legislation. And in fact, I think it's actually moving us in the opposite direction. So I'm really pleased to see this. I think this is really well laid out. It's all the things that myself, members of council, the Ontario Big City Mayors, and AMO have been saying now for quite some time. But I think it's the most succinct and to the point presentation of the facts that we are dealing with each and every day that I've ever seen in a staff report. So thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. And I am quite sure that I will certainly be using that report in any of the advocacy that I do going forward. And I would encourage other members of council to use it as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else have remarks? No. So we have a motion to receive the report. Oh, and to send it to the minister. Thank you. That's written in there now. All right. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Our next item is 11.10 Traffic Safety and Operations Strategy. I wanted to pull this one because I really do think this is a great example of where we're moving forward on something that I know that residents care about. Back in September, moved a motion. It was unanimously supported by this council to say speeding in our neighborhoods is enough. We've had it. What can we do? And this year, we're going to see some actual tangible traffic calming measures, which include physical things like bollards and signs and maybe some speed bumps. And I'm just excited that we're moving forward and at a fairly quick pace. I believe staff have chosen 18 areas, and that's just the start. And I did want to ask staff, can you explain a little bit there are 3 main areas that for each ward that are going to get specific physical things, but there's also community safety zones. Could you please, I guess Commissioner Massaro will explain what is a community safety zone and what will it entail and how will it help slow down traffic in even more streets?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Community safety zones are basically areas that have been identified as high-risk areas or concerns, which are typically near elementary schools, secondary schools, hospitals, things of that nature. And what it allows the city to do is put up signage, regulatory signage that doubles Highway Traffic Act offenses such as speeding. So really the intent here is to try and change the behavior of motorists within the areas identified as community safety zones. And in the report, there are, I believe, 86 areas that have been identified. And what it generally looks like is signage. And if you look at the attachment 1, many of the traffic calming areas that are being proposed include and are within community safety zones.
Thank you. And can you tell me the timeline for the streets that have been selected for calming measures, the timeline, and also how you selected those streets out of the many streets in Richmond Hill?
Certainly, Madam Chair. As far as the timelines for the traffic calming areas, the intent is to have them all implemented in and around the end of the second quarter. We are working closely with our partners in Public Works Operations because they will be assisting us with some of the implementation of those areas. Some of the things that generally are things that hold us back are the utility relocates, call before you dig, and they generally take 4 to 6 weeks to get done. So there's some things that are out of our control, but that's generally the aim. And how we came up with them, we had our consultant go through all of the data that we had internally, all our collision data within the city of Richmond Hill, analyzing the information that relates to injuries or fatalities within them, and then prioritize them on that basis. And that's how we came up with the 18 locations before you today within the staff report.
Thank you. And then will there be an assessment of the success and then what worked, what didn't work, and then possibly expansion to other areas in terms of the calming measures?
Through the chair, yes. Coming later in November, as identified in the staff report, the intent is to report back on how well these tools in the toolbox are functioning within these areas, and very much the reason why we only selected the areas that we did for now until such times we add other areas for traffic calming within the city. We'll have an idea of what tools work best in different areas. So what we're using an evidence-based approach, and that's what many of the policies within the report speak to, using an evidence-based approach to improving traffic behavior within the city of Richmond Hill.
Thank you. I move to receive the report. Is that right? I don't need to do that. Oh, I'm the chair. I can't do that. Well, over to over to Regional and Local Councillor Chan.
Thank you very much. And I'm trying to be helpful. And I'd like to move the motion to, in this case, the actual recommendation coming forward as well. For the record, Madam Chair and Mr. Kirk, and like to move the motion as recommended by staff in the report. But also, I just want to say, having attended 4 of the 6 specific ward presentations, I have to say that I'm very impressed with the professionalism, that display and shown at those meetings. And speaking about, like have to support by data. Like to me, all the presentations, including from the consultant, are data driven in terms of how it leads to what is being shown and proposed. Because having sitting here for quite a while, quite often that I believe my colleagues as well, usually when there's concerns from the neighborhood about speeding, they usually come with exactly what they want, speed bumps. But speed bump, so to speak, is only one of the tools. And through the professional staff and a display of the data, supported by the data, and there is a number of tools. Some are less intrusive or labor intensive, or it's expensive that can do the work. So I appreciate all they have done, and I want to say thank you. I don't recall many other initiatives for the city, at least not as often, to have actually one public information session per ward. So kudos to all of you. And I also believe that is one of the access Richmond Hill record we show maybe complaints about speeding, people don't stop sign. There's part of wondering if not top 3, at least the top 5 in terms of number of wrong complaints we get. So this is the attempt of our city doing something about it, as Madam Chair has been saying, and it's also a range. I think this is something that I think I mentioned it in his report as well. I saw in the maybe medium term to do, or maybe short term we should, is that public education through social media and so on and so on. And also I noted that in the medium term, those automated speeding equipment will be coming. For some of us sitting on the region, I believe Mayor West and also my colleague, Regional Council Department, have been getting some of those concerns when they are set up in some regional role. So I see this all educational process that try to really help to influence or drivers' behavior, that there's something that's good for the community, safer for everyone. So I'm happy to move the motion in front of us. And I think that after all, it's very fair, 3 per ward, so 18 together in this city. Madam Chair also mentioned about, I understand this also to be reviewed. Some of this may be actually rotated, just like the pole-mounted speed reader board. So I look forward to, I guess, the annual report coming back later. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also like to thank staff for hosting those workshops. Very, very welcoming by the residents. I just have a quick question. What is the criteria of having an oversized stop sign? Because I myself have a few locations that I think that need an oversized stop sign, which is not on the list from staff. Is it possible that if we request one and then you can install one there through you, Madam Chair? To staff, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, I'll give that a first shot. There are some experiences where we've done it, and then I'll pass it back to the staff. There are scenarios where sometimes for visibility or there's more data that suggests that there's non-compliance. Staff make an initiative to improve the situation by creating increased visibility to change behaviors. And there have been some scenarios across the city, as well as other cities across the region, where oversized signs are used. And it is still a regulatory sign. It's just a larger regulatory sign. And the prime driver is visibility in these scenarios.
Okay. So maybe I'll talk to staff. And maybe they can take a look if the location, it's a warrant, an oversized stop sign. I would like to see that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councillor Shu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Much appreciated to the traffic team for preparing the TSOS. Much appreciated. Regarding to the staff report from key actions 4 to 9, They are all currently in progress. Is there any timeline? Will they be able to get it done within this year? Do you have any timeline for that? Through the chair.
Through the chair to Councillor Shu, are you specifically looking at 4 to 9?
Yep.
Yeah, so I can either allow staff to speak to it at a high level where we're at each one of those, or we can certainly report back. As noted here, a lot of these things are in flight. They take a lot of time to put into place, whether it's public education, social media, things that we are starting to work on. It's ongoing and it's an evolution. The same applies to our city website. It's an ongoing process, and we're looking for the outcome of today's session and report that will allow us to put some of this vital information on our website that helps educate the public as it relates to the slowdown signs. That's something that we're looking into because we need to make sure that it's in compliance and aligned with our sign bylaw and all the other things. And the expanded pole-mounted radar boards, as an example, is something that we're looking to expand. So that means that some of this equipment needs to be procured, locations identified. So I'd say that there's a good chunk of this that's most likely going to be implemented between now and the end of the year, but it's an ongoing basis. It will continue for years to come.
Okay, and I have one follow-up question through the chair. Is all of these key actions will be done annually or every year, once a year?
Some of these key actions, if you read into the details of each of the key actions, will be done on a regular basis. Some of them may be specific to if they're capital related. Like for example, the public education sessions. At this point, we have no plan to do a public education session for every ward 6 times a year, every year. That's not a current plan. So by reading the key actions, it's evident that some of these actions that we're undertaking are already part of our regular business that we undertake here.
Okay, that's all about my question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to do the same as most of my colleagues and thank staff, Commissioner Massaro and Director Tosiewski and Manager Ng. I want to thank them for all the work that they did here and their staff bringing this forward. I can only speak to the Ward 5 public information session, and it went very well. And I do believe that the residents who did appear were content and happy with what was being proposed. So I just want to, staff really needs a shout out here. There's been a lot of work that has been done here, and a lot of nights coming to the public information sessions. So thank you, and thank you for looking after our roads as well as you do. The only thing I feel is missing in this report is a net. That we could put a net up at all stop signs, and then just it'll stop the cars from going through. But I don't think the Highway Traffic Act would allow that. So I'm good. I'll support this. Thank you.
Next, we have Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, through the chair. Just like to just get some insights on the feedback that was received from the various sessions that were out there. I know that in the session that I attended for Ward 2, there were some very good observations that were brought forward. And one of the observations that was brought forward was in regards to the ladder crosswalks, that a comment was made that the paint that they've experienced, or this was an experience that the person had raised, was that the paint can be very slippery when you have wet conditions. And so when you receive comments like that back, do they get, how do you handle them? And do they get, like, is there other means that you're looking at when it comes back to seeing if that recommendation would be implementable? I think what the person had indicated for the ladder sidewalk was that, I don't know how to describe it, but a textured type paint where it's almost like braille or something. I don't know. So that's my question. A little convoluted, but that's my question.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, staff are always ensuring that we're up to date with industry standards. There are a variety of different types of materials that are used out in the field. There's paint, there's durable plastic and other sorts of things. So staff are always happy to take back comments from the public and determine the best path forward to ensure that all crosswalks are as safe as possible moving forward, exploring different types of materials moving forward.
Okay, and thank you through the chair. Really appreciate all the work that staff have done here. This is really great, and I like the presentations that were brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it for remarks. We have a motion before us. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Moving on to 12.1, member motion by regional and local councillor DePola regarding Richmond Hill City cybersecurity program. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so I guess I'll just have the clerk put up the motion that I'm intending to pass, hoping to pass. I've made a small change, just to put a date on it or a time frame. I've included the words before the summer recess. Oh, okay, the clerk has highlighted that, so I think it's important to mention that. I would never want to deviate from circulated intended member motion, but I just thought it needed a time frame. So I want to thank our staff, in particular Sherry Adams and Rob Jones, for helping me in my education and learning more and more about cybersecurity and how governments like ourselves and corporations protect themselves from fraudulent attempts by hackers and others to steal data and steal private information from our residents and blackmail. Entities like the city. This has come about because, well, a year ago, the New York region had a breach, and that was the beginning of my concern that we have proper protection in place, and most recently with the city of Hamilton. I can't imagine us having to close our services, and being the only municipality in Ontario. We had COVID, but just having to be at the mercy of a cyber attack and having to have all our systems down like Hamilton did for over a week. And I know the school board had an attack on its systems, and I have a lot of confidence in what we're doing here in Richmond Hill. I'm hesitant to get into any details in public. I think we got to go into camera if we're going to, really drill down on what we're doing here. But I've been reassured. I've had all my questions answered. I think Richmond Hill is doing an excellent job, both on our cybersecurity measures, our education of our staff. The weakest link is any member of the organization that could be a portal or allowing access to nefarious actors, in the digital world. And I think our staff's been well educated. We have great policies in place, but the one thing we are doing, and I think is a great thing, but we are trying to mimic or measure ourselves against ISO 27001 standards in what we do here, and it's an international global standard that has some measurable criteria that you need to meet as a city, and we're using that as a template for the best practice or for what to do here in Richmond Hill. But I would hope that we would actually meet that standard. I think if there's some people say that it's not a matter of if you have a breach in your system, it's when. And when we do have a breach, I don't think anyone's going to be concerned about the details. I think the fingers will be pointed at council, the mayor's office, and our decision making. And the assumption may be that we've done something wrong. And what I would like to do is have a proactive approach to this, that we can come out and have a tangible certification that we can say that the city of Richmond Hill has gone to these great lengths and has has achieved a global standard in its cybersecurity. So I'm hoping that this is a step toward that. I'm not asking for anything today other than a staff report, a report about what those ISO 27000 standards are, what we're doing today to meet those standards, where perhaps we're falling short, and what the cost would be to hit those standards and to be able to truly be certified under that standard. And I'm not prejudging anything that might come forward. I'm wholly content to allow staff to report back to us on their status, whether in open session or in closed, if they feel that's necessary, and then that we go from there. And I think it's time and it's important that this council be updated on where we're at with our cybersecurity, that we have that discussion. The members of council understand what our practices are today, and perhaps where we need to do more. And I see my time's up. I didn't hear a bell. Is the bell not working? Okay. Well, the only thing is, as budget chair, I like to save money as much as we can, but on this, this is not where we should be trying to save. And I think whatever the cost, we need to protect ourselves. Thanks.
Thank you. And it does look like our bell is malfunctioning. So next, Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Regional Councillor DePaula for bringing this forward. I definitely support it. And I want to thank staff for all the work that they've done till now and in the future, bringing this back to council. I do believe that that this is a necessity for this council to know. We should know, and I definitely agree that it should be brought into closed session. This should not be made public. But this council, who are the board of directors of the Corporation of the City of Richmond Hill, definitely deserve and should know exactly how we are protected, and if there is a breach, what process are we going to go through? How do we know if there's a breach? What are the red flags that come up? And what firewalls do we have in place to prevent certain breaches? And how do we prevent them on a large scale? How do we prevent this from happening? Because as Regional Councillor DePaula mentioned, Hamilton had a terrible, terrible time with this. It was a nightmare for them. And the Toronto Library had a terrible time. They're only just getting some things up and running now. They were really, really bad. So we don't want any of that to happen to the City of Richmond Hill, and we certainly don't want to be held hostage by any bad actors. So thank you. I would definitely support this. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And next we have Regional and Local Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Regional Councillor colleague Paula brought this forward. Yeah, the last thing you want the City of Richmond Hill in the news is associated with breach due to either data or system due to cybersecurity, and definitely that prevention is better than cure later on. And it's no secret that I think that the mover also mentioned is very close to home, right? Region and Toronto Public Library, a number of places, including quite a considerable number of school boards, whether mid-sized or bigger sized cities in North America have been under attack. So my understanding is that this is an ongoing thing our IT staff are certainly paying attention to. And I think it's just not the staff per se or IT folks. And in fact, I would probably say every one of us who are using the IT system of the city, provided city, probably may sometime need education session. It doesn't have to be in private, but certainly be paying more alert in terms of inadvertently fall into that kind of trap, so to speak, from some of these folks are certainly very smart in terms of moving around the cyberspace to steal or to copy or whatever information that might lead them to attack other things. Because we do have critical system water, both drinking, as well as, we don't own any hydro corporation, but we are certainly every residence need it. Heat and gas and all that, all those are critical feature. I hate to think about sometimes cybersecurity only people want money, but also the more alarming thought that potential quote unquote not so friendly attack on our infrastructure. And I don't mean just in Richmond. So I'm in full support of that. I look forward to having the board back, but I'm also just saying that potentially to the extent that we do have resources, may not be over before summer, but perhaps our city manager will think about maybe even education sessions to really beef up everyone's understanding in the city, how not to potentially inadvertently get into allowing or providing opportunity for other not do-gooders to tap into our system. Thank you.
Anyone else? No, I actually would like to make a comment. I appreciate this motion. I support it. One of the things I hope will be included is if it does happen, since it's not a matter of if, it's when, that communication to residents and stakeholders be part of this report. I bring that up because one of my kids, their university was hacked recently and there was radio silence for 2 weeks. Absolutely no communication whatsoever. So all these kids don't know what they're doing, what's next. So I don't know if this is next step after this report, but I would really love to see the communication plan as part of our cybersecurity strategy so that residents know what's happening as much as we can tell them, and that people are kept in the loop, because it's usually worse in people's minds than it actually is. And it actually helps keep things flowing if we have a good communication plan in tandem with our cybersecurity plans. So we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Next, we go to 12.2, member motion by Regional and Local Councillor Chan regarding federal infrastructure funding to support growth. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as I alluded to in the councillor's remarks early on in the beginning of the meeting, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has been in our board of directors meeting recently, really speaking about that we have to really strengthen our advocacy efforts in terms of having the higher orders of government, federal, provincial, to help with the municipal to really fund the gaps in terms of the critical infrastructure for housing, for water, for climate change adaptation, disasters mitigation, homelessness, and so on and so on. So the reality is local governments are actually among three orders of government delivering directly to results on the ground. So these are the kind of things that capital projects would actually maintain or have, would hope to also improve the quality of life our residents come to enjoy. In fact, SCM has been doing very much advocacy in advance of the federal budget, actually coming in about a month, April 16th, I believe the date, that advocating for a new growth formula, meaning that even though a lot of times I've been saying that municipalities are the children of the provinces, but nonetheless, they already been very collaborative relationship among local governments and federal government. I don't have to remind everyone we get $31 million from federal government on housing accelerator fund. In fact, we have motions on that before. And I understand that also that tomorrow the York Region meeting, there also will be a notice of motion, also referring to FCM, talking about, getting it to a federal government to step in to really address the critical gaps in terms of funding. And this is the motion in front of you also based on data. And the figures I provided in the background, whereas it's not number picked in the air. 1.25 million new Canadians that came in between 2022 and 2023 are based on Statistics Canada figures. It's not just some figures picked up in the air. And at least 3.5 million additional homes and units as estimated by CMHC. Those are numbers by credible organizations, as well as talking about need to have another $170 billion for replacing the infrastructures among all municipalities infrastructure in Canada. Again, it's based on study commissioned by FCM. And also the growth in terms of the city, although we are not in the building business, but the city also, we have also through obviously contractors, build community centers, swimming pools, libraries, things of that nature. And those non-residential construction costs has been going up in the last 4 years, average about 10% a year. So all those figures are supported by studies and really data-driven. And I honestly hope that this is also working in alignment with Mayor West's motion back just last month in terms of supporting AMO, Associated Municipality of Ontario, and other Ontario municipalities in trying to urging the provincial government to enter into a new social and prosperity review. So we're very much in the same thinking, aligning. Federation of municipalities is also working with along all local governments, and I hope that the City of Richmond, our council, take the leadership in York region in also joining the call for advocacy and the particular opportunity for the government, federal government, to step in. Now, honestly, one would not expect if within a month the 2024 federal budget would deliver all the goodies. But the important thing is that it has been a continuous call for action, meaning that the federal government can look into convening a federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal levels of meetings to try to look at the whole funding allocation structure of municipalities. And that is no surprises. And I think that's something worth supporting and working in alignment with the previous motion we passed. In fact, in Quebec and Saskatchewan, the province did provide more support and revenues from municipalities. So here's the motion, and I urge my colleagues to endorse it and support it. And they work hand in hand with the AMO motion that Mayor West brought in last month to urge Ontario also do a social and prosperity review. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this motion? No. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. A motion to adjourn? Oh,
Sorry, Madam Chair, I know this is out and ordinary. I noticed the first delegate is supposed to speak. The president of the Historic Society is back. So maybe through you, Madam Chair and Mr. Kirk could advise, would that be opportunity lose it and then you don't have a chance to speak? Because thank you for coming back, Jim.
Thank you. Through the chair, generally speaking, we have moved past delegations, and in fact, we've dealt with all the council business. So in my view, the only way you could hear from the delegate would be by a motion of council to do so. Normally, I would say, well, the delegate could come forward at council next week. However, the delegation was related to the general presentation of his staff and not to any specific item. It's a unique scenario. I appreciate where Regional Local Councillor Chan is coming from. It's certainly in this committee's hands to decide that that's what it would like to do. But I worry, quite frankly, about setting a precedent about hearing delegations after council has done all the business. So that my comment, but ultimately it's up to committee to decide what they want to do.
Thank you. And I'm just I want to recognize that the first delegate is back, but in fairness, he has been sitting between 9:30 to almost 11 something before he left. But I understand. So I'm not going to try to create a precedent here unless my colleagues think otherwise. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. May the mayor speak on this?
I actually, you know what? I get what the clerk's saying, and I'm very much, cognizant of that. The only thing is, though, that the circumstances around this are pretty, we'll look at it one circumstance at a time. I don't think it's going to set a precedent. And actually, I was going to suggest that the best option would be to come back to council as well, because I'm quite certain, knowing the Historical Society and Mr. Vollmershausen, that your words are going to be important. But given that this was in light of the presentation, that there won't be an opportunity to do that at council. And I don't want to waste the opportunity to hear from the Historical Society, because that's an important stakeholder. So I would be happy or whatever, to move the motion to ask council to allow this to happen this one time.
Do you have to write the motion, or can we just verbally say it? We have a motion on the floor by the mayor. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Welcome.
So you thought you were finished for the day, but now you're not.
Now you came back.
Thank you very much for accommodating me. I had to get a puppy to a vet.
Can you please introduce yourself?
But,
Can you introduce yourself? Thank you.
okay. Puppy's fine on antibiotics, and take her back next week. So thanks again for accommodating me. My name is Jim Vollmershausen. I am president of the Richmond Hill Historical Society. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to speak today in support of the proposed designation of a number of historically significant buildings in our city. We are very aware of the situation in which recent provincial legislation has placed municipalities regarding the protection of historically significant buildings and the resulting need to meet deadlines in order to save what we view as an important city resource. We acknowledge that more time would be beneficial in order to consider the merits of individual properties and their historical importance, but we also accept that time isn't on our side from that point of view. So we are pleased that the city is moving forward with an approach that will give us all an opportunity to propose and approve designations for a number of worthy buildings. And I must say that we very much appreciate the work that staff has put in to prepare council in the city for this approach to dealing with Bill 23. Now, the approach, of course, makes it difficult for us to devote our attention to specific properties. So our intention today has always been to speak to the process and to emphasize the value of designated properties in general. We believe that a city's character is derived in a significant way from its past, from its history. Celebrating and preserving that history contributes to a city's sense of place and emphasizes how it came to be the way it is. Today's Richmond Hill is a product of its past, a result of its earliest settlement, of its growth over 200 years, and how its residential, commercial, and industrial development evolved to create the city we know today. We do not want to lose sight of the past that forged the present, and one important way to achieve that is to protect and highlight our buildings that have been part of that past, that in fact witnessed that past. We understand that homeowners can be concerned about whether their home's designation will have a positive or negative impact on their property, though one can point to many examples in Richmond Hill and elsewhere where the experience has been on the positive side of that equation. Exterior restorations and interior renovations have resulted in houses that continue to present real historical value while providing living accommodations suited to a family's requirements or a business's needs. We have also learned that preserving historic buildings does not mean that development opportunities are sacrificed. An emphasis on preserving the exterior character of a building and allowing for interior work that emphasizes comfort or even investment opportunities allows maximum benefit, historic integrity, and beneficial use. The city's heritage permit process is designed to help maximize both. It is our hope that the process that is starting today will result in a designation of a number of historically significant buildings. Such a result would be a positive outcome for the city and its citizens, and would see a number of property owners proud of their contribution to celebrating Richmond Hill's past. The Historical Society would like to encourage council to keep the importance of celebrating our collective history in mind as they consider proposals to designate specific buildings, and to remind property owners that designations need not be a negative, that historic integrity, beneficial use, and value can coexist. In closing, I want to reiterate a sentiment that we expressed when we were here last discussing the Jefferson Schoolhouse. Please remember, when it's gone forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing that. Thank you very much.
And all the best to your puppy. I believe we're looking for a motion now to adjourn. There's nothing to receive. Okay. For all the first-time counselors, I'm making all our mistakes now, and then when it's your turn, we'll be flying. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn? Mayor West, all those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.